Matthew 1:18 to 25. This is how the birth of the Messiah came about. His mother Mary was pledged to marry Joseph, but before they came together, she was found to be pregnant through the Holy Spirit. Because Joseph, her husband, was faithful to the law and yet did not want to expose her to public disgrace, he had in mind to divorce her quietly. But after he had considered this, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, "Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary home as your wife, because what is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will give birth to a son, and you are to give him the name Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins." All of this took place to fulfill what the Lord had said through the prophet. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, which means God with us. When Joseph woke up, he did what the angel of the Lord had commanded him and took Mary home as his wife. But he did not consummate their marriage until she gave birth to a son, and he gave him the name Jesus.
Our waiting is almost over. We have arrived at this final Sunday of Advent and are anticipating what is to come. But as we've been waiting, we have been preparing. We have not been idle. We've been busy, right? Cleaning and decorating and cooking and baking and buying gifts and organizing family gatherings or having those as well. Practicing our parts for an upcoming service, maybe even taking some time to ponder and reflect what God is up to. In these various ways, we've been planning for what is to come. Now, I'm a planner, not just this time of the year, but for my life in general. Plans help me organize my day, my week, the years ahead, and in essence, my life. I can plan for things that I know I need to do, right? Those paying the bills and preparing the tax forms, all of those nitty-gritty items that we as adults have to do. And alongside all those items are plans for things that I like to do, birthday parties, or vacation trips, or an outing with the grandsons. Planning helps provide a vision for the future. Planning helps me feel in control of what's going to happen, even though that's really an illusion. I have a picture in my mind, how things will go or how things will unfold. What a picture-perfect family looks like, or what a picture-perfect holiday gathering looks like, or what a picture-perfect life looks like. Many of you are likely familiar with paintings by Norman Rockwell or Thomas Kinkade, beautiful scenes depicting ideal, picture-perfect moments of life. A beautiful country church nestled in a valley in a quaint village. The picture of a mother placing this perfectly cooked turkey on the table with the family gathered around. Or a Christmas picture of a family on the front porch, showing beautiful children with stunning parents holding these beautifully wrapped presents, everybody with their perfect smile on. Yet we all know the reality. These picture-perfect moments really do not match real-life experiences. At my recent Thanksgiving family gathering that Dennis and I hosted, things were certainly not picture-perfect. At the beginning of the meal, our grandson was unhappy and crying. The passing of food went in all directions. It was chaotic. The dressing ran out before everyone got served, and the candles that I had bought particularly for that day, I had forgotten to light. Not really how I had planned things. So our best laid plans do not get carried out in the manner that we had described or as we had planned them. Life is messy, Plans get changed. Interruptions jolt us. The unexpected catches us by surprise, and our plans go awry. This is certainly what has happened for Joseph in our text for today. Joseph's plans have gotten messed up. He and Mary were engaged, and everything was in place for them to begin their life together, a life full of hopes and dreams of what the future would hold, likely a picture-perfect ideal of their marriage and life together. Unlike in our culture where engagement is a romantic declaration of intent to marry, in the first century world, engagement was a legal contract, binding in every respect. Their pledge was essentially that they were married, yet not yet living together. Which means that when Joseph learns that Mary is pregnant, he can only conclude that she has been unfaithful. How devastated Joseph must have been as he wrestled with his hurt and anger and the betrayal of all his hopes and dreams for marriage. This was not the plan. How could she mess up this plan? His plan, their plan. And so Joseph was filled with questions, those questions the children had earlier. What should he do? What should he do about Mary? As a good Jewish man, he would have asked, what did the law demand? Yet, what did his heart tell him to do? Joseph decides to go along and do the honorable thing, and he makes plans to end the engagement quietly, so as not to draw negative attention to Mary, but certainly also perhaps to save himself some embarrassment. And then the questions continue: how to tell family and friends that the engagement is off? How to move forward with this new plan? The picture-perfect ideal has been disrupted. Life is now filled with questions and uncertainties. We also, each one of us, have experienced similar upheavals. Times filled with anxiety and uncertainty, when circumstances, sometimes even by our own actions, have upset our picture-perfect plan. Times when we are struggling, or feeling disconnected, or in turmoil as plans are turned upside down. Time when our future seems uncertain. Times when our minds are filled with questions. What do we do when our plans, our dreams for the future suddenly end with no satisfactory reason? What to do when the perfect job doesn't materialize? What to do when all the time, energy, and study that's been invested in a particular career path seems wasted? What to do when a marriage doesn't work out the way we had hoped for and divorce is being faced? What to do with a diagnosis of cancer or other life-altering illness and a future life is threatened? What to do when your life partner has died and everything has changed? What to do when? You fill in the blank. Debbie Thomas was confronted with such a time. 2 years ago, her 15-year-old son had a biking accident on his way home from school. He remembers plowing into the boy in front of him who stopped suddenly, and then waking up on the ground with a cracked helmet, a few scrapes, and a vicious headache. And that headache hasn't gone away since. So for 2 years, Debbie has been with her son, who has been out of school, unable to participate in extracurricular activities he loves, and unable to remain upright and out of bed for longer than 4 or 5 hours at a stretch. He spends most of his time in a darkened bedroom with ice packs on his forehead. He faints and feels nauseated a lot, and despite visits to physicians and tries with various medications and alternative therapies, his headaches remain. Debbie writes that during the first days, weeks, and months after the accident, she prayed with a kind of desperate hope for immediate and complete healing and complete restoration. She prayed for wisdom for her son's pediatrician and neurologist. She prayed for the acupuncturist hands as the healer administered the needles. She prayed for every MRI and CT scan and physical exam. She describes the hope fueling her prayers as focused and frantic and frenzied, a hope based entirely on results, on causes and effects, on miracles and magic. It's in times like this that we too, like Debbie, and like the psalmist, cry out to God, "Restore us, O God, let your face shine, that we may be saved." We desperately want God to come and intervene. We plead with God to come and make things right again. We want to see results. We want things restored. We cry out not only for the things in our personal lives, but also in the world around us, in a world where things are not right, where there is too much division and too little harmony, where there's too much violence and too little understanding, where there's too much arguing and too little listening. We long for God to act now, to change things on a big scale, on a cosmic scale. We want God to save the world and make it right. That's what I want. I want God to do something big. I want God to fix all these big things, heal all the divisions and the unjust sufferings, and stop all of the wars. I long for things to be made right. Restore us, O God. Turn again, O God of hosts. Look down from heaven and see the mess that we're in. This crying out to God is not something new for just our days. The people in Isaiah's days cried out to God to save them. Remember that the people of Israel also had their plans disrupted. They had been carted off to exile in Babylon, separated from their homes and their land, and they cried out to God. They wanted to go back home, to live their lives in peace and abundance. The reply given to Israel in their time of upheaval and exile were these words from God through the prophet: "Fear not. Fear not, I am with you." God had not abandoned them. God was still with them, walking with them in the midst of their circumstances. And these are the words that are echoed in the message Joseph received in the dream. In Joseph's moment of despair, God sends this dream with these angelic words of hope: "Fear not. Do not be afraid to take Mary for your wife, for the child conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit, and he will save his people from their sins." Joseph, this baby who you will name Jesus is the one. He is the fulfillment of the prophecy spoken by Isaiah. This child is Emmanuel, which means God is with us. God is here, fear not. This baby has come to save us. God overshadows Joseph with God's own hopes for this glorious future. God's dream of a future when humanity is reconciled with God, who desperately loves God's own creation. Through Jesus, God will transform the world itself. Joseph's life certainly didn't work out the way he planned, but it was transformed. When Joseph woke from the dream, he accepted the words of the angel. He accepted the messiness and the uncertainty of his situation, and he accepted Mary and her child. He became willing to take on his role as father to this child, to help raise Jesus into the man he would become. He accepted Jesus as a sign of God, as a sign of hope. This ancient promise is given to us again. Fear not. God is with you. God is with us. God is really with us. God has come in human form in this child. God chooses to come in a small, vulnerable child. As we sing in one of our Christmas hymns, "This child now weak in infancy, our joy and confidence will be." A sign of hope. Hope not in God acting in some big way, eradicating violence or fixing all the unjust systems or fixing my life, but in becoming flesh, becoming one of us, being born as a baby, dwelling among us. Although our family Thanksgiving gathering that I described earlier did not unfold as I had planned, it was a day that continued with good conversation, and it was a special time for we welcomed a new baby into our family. Catherine Suzanne was born this past summer to my nephew and his wife, and we got to meet her for the first time. Now, in my family, girls are treasured because the boys outnumber the girls 3-1. So we were thrilled to have this baby girl join our family. And as we spent the afternoon together, we all wanted to hold little Katie Sue. She was passed from one set of arms to the next so that we could all have our turn, admiring her rosy cheeks and her small little fingers and her bright eyes. It was a time for cherishing this new life and feeling a sense of hope for the future. In the midst of all that is not right in our lives and in the world, there is hope. In the birth of Jesus, we see that God is really with us. God comes to us as we are, not as we know we should be, or are trying to be, or have promised to be, or will be someday. But God is with us as we are right now, today, in this moment. God is really with us. God is truly with us, truly as we are, with our weaknesses, in our difficulties, in our messiness, in our uncertainties, in the surprises, and in the interruptions of life. Emmanuel, the one with us and for this world. As Debbie continues to journey with her son as he lives in chronic pain, her understanding of hope has changed. Of course, she still prays for her son's headaches to go away. But instead of her hope and prayers being frantic and frenzied, they are softer and quieter. It's an unclenched hope, one set free from expectations and clamoring. It's a hope grounded in things not seen, in tiny seeds planted in the dark earth, in small gestures of love and courage and friendship and solidarity of people around her, in streams that flow in the desert, in the quiet resurrections that keep her son and their family going. Debbie finds hope from the stories of biblical women who persevered in hope despite their situations. The story of Sarah, who became pregnant at the age of 99 and laughs her head off because she thought for sure she was too old and wise for God to surprise her. The story of Hagar, a slave woman dying of thirst in the desert, who even in her abandonment became the first person in the Bible to name God. And the story of Mary, the mother of Jesus, who pondered hard mysteries deep in her heart. These stories show that hope isn't about magical results, but about enduring through the long darkness, enduring through this time of waiting, knowing that God is with us. Debbie writes, "These days, I hope not because things are even close to being okay, but because the God of the small and the mundane and the inexplicable is my son's companion in his pain. God is with him. God is with Debbie, and God is with each of us. In small and quiet ways, God is with us. God is with us always, always acting, always loving, always giving birth to something, if we have eyes and ears to perceive it. A call for us to continue to pay attention to the little things, to the small things, to the child among us. God really with us, and in this we can rejoice and find hope."